Those key primaries in 5 states. In Georgia, the GOP race for governor is putting former President Trump and former Vice President Mike Pence on opposite sites. Current Governor Brian Kemp is leading the polls despite former President Trump calling him a sellout for refusing to overturn the state's 2020 presidential election results. But Kemp does have the support of former Vice President Pence, who campaigned for him just last night. Let's bring in the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party, David Shafer, for more. David, good to have you. You know, right now, candidates there are divided over former President Trump's false claims that the election was stolen. So what's the Georgia Republican Party's official position on that right now?
Well, I think there is widespread mistrust in the election processes. Many of those were fixed in Senate Bill 202, which was passed last year by the Georgia General Assembly and signed into law by the governor and is currently being litigated. But you've seen a massive increase in Republican voter participation in the primaries, hundreds of thousands of people voting in the primary who have never voted in Republican primaries before. And I think that bodes well for us as we prepare for the general election this fall.
Sure. And just to be clear, don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but the results were certified by all 50 states, led by Republicans and Democrats. So accusations of fraud were examined by 60 courts of law, including Republican and Democratic judges, 18 of them appointed by President Trump. They were also investigated by the Attorney General at the time, Bill Barr, who was appointed by President Trump, as we know, and no widespread fraud was found. And Barr himself even said that if he had not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in that election as well. So I just want to make clear those points as we continue to have this discussion still, even right now during the midterms. So with that said, are you concerned, or how concerned are you, that embracing false claims could hurt the GOP's chances to garner the support of independents or even dissatisfied Democrats in November?
Well, we're seeing a surge of independents and former Democrats participating in the Republican primary. And I think that you're going to see a shift towards us, a dramatic shift towards us in the general election this fall.
So let me follow up, too, that you were a plaintiff in some of the lawsuits that were filed on behalf of former President Trump to overturn the election in Georgia, but you voluntarily dismissed 4 of the lawsuits rather than present your evidence in court. I'm curious to why.
That's not correct at all. I was a plaintiff in 1 lawsuit. It was the official election contest, and it was never heard by a judge. It was required by law to have been heard within 20 days of it being filed. And they didn't put it down for a hearing until after the Congress had met and certified the return, so it had been mooted. I mean, that gets counted as a suit that was lost, but it was actually never heard by a judge.
Okay, so it was just to clarify, just one lawsuit you say you were involved with.
Right. The Georgia Republican Party filed lawsuits, but I was only a plaintiff on the 1 lawsuit. And they they wouldn't assign it to a judge. It wasn't put down for a hearing until Friday, January the 8th, which was 3 weeks after the statutory deadline for hearing an election contest and 2 days after Congress had already counted the votes. And so it was never heard, not because it was rejected, not because we didn't want to contest our claims, because at that point there was simply no remedy available.
Okay, noted. You were also subpoenaed by the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol to testify about an alleged effort to send a false slate of electors to overturn Georgia's election results. What did you tell the committee, David, on February 25th?
I told them the truth, and at the end of my interview, they closed my deposition and released me from subpoena. We met the Republican nominees for presidential elector met provisionally on the day that the presidential electors were required to meet, because the lawsuit that I just talked about had not yet been decided. And so it was important for us to cast those votes so that there would be a remedy available if the president had ultimately prevailed in that lawsuit.
Got it. So just to be clear, when you did talk to the committee, you told them the Trump campaign had directed the Georgia GOP to submit the slate of false electors. Is that right?
No, I didn't say anything like that.
That's what's been reported. What exactly did you say when you say you did tell the truth?
Well, I answered 4 hours worth of questions. I never invoked any constitutional privileges. I didn't ask for immunity. I just explained exactly what we did, which was because of the pending litigation that had not been resolved. We met, we cast our ballots so that a remedy would be available if the president ultimately prevailed in the lawsuit. And, in the end, the lawsuit was never decided. It was never actually even heard because of the delays within the court system. That's what I told the committee.
With the committee. So let me ask you about former President Trump, because he's doing it again. This time he's calling into question the results of this key Senate primary in Pennsylvania between two Republicans with more baseless claims of fraud yet again. You've got Congressman Jody Hice running to replace Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who says he would still decertify the 2020 results in Georgia today if he could. Now, that's illegal, as we know, but the trend is pretty clear here. The former president and supporters of this big lie basically claim any election they don't win is fraudulent, especially ones that go Democrat. So I just want to give you a chance to respond here. How is this still democracy?
Well, I can't speak to what's happened in Pennsylvania. I know that there's a recount that's pending, but I think that some of the things that you've said or put up on the screen and stated as facts aren't exactly right either. I mean, the election contest here in Georgia was never decided. It wasn't rejected. It was never actually even given an evidentiary hearing. And that's one of the reasons that there's, mistrust in the electoral process. Everyone's entitled to their day in court and to a timely hearing of their claims. And that did not happen after the 2020 election in Georgia. But Senate Bill 202 fixed many of the problems that we identified in 2020. I feel more confident about the electoral process going into the 2020 election than we did during the 2020 election or the 2022 election than I did in 2020. And I think that Republicans, you see Republicans responding to that by the record turnouts.
Finally, our reporters there, David. Gotcha. We have a number of reporters, as you know, there on the ground in Georgia, and they say that most Republicans that they've talked to want to move on from the 2020 election and actually talk about things like gas prices and the economy, something that's affecting all of us, even you and me. So how can the party get former President Trump to put this issue to bed just once and for all and talk about these issues right now that are impacting every American at this moment?
Well, no, I think that's what's driving turnout is the economy. I mean, the Biden administration has been a complete disaster. You have the price of food and gasoline is skyrocketing. You have disruptions in the supply chain worse than when we were under a worldwide global pandemic, and people are suffering. And I think you are seeing a dramatic shift toward the Republican Party because this is not what they signed. This is not what many voters signed up for, independent voters signed up for when they voted Democratic last fall.
Georgia GOP Chairman David Shafer. Appreciate your time, David. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.